Welcome back to another live session of What's New in Octave, the edge-to-cloud data orchestration platform by CR Wireless. As usual, the session is recorded and will be posted on CR Wireless YouTube channel. If you are watching this session on YouTube, click out in the description below for the link to register for the live session so that you can interact with the presenters next time. You'll note that there is two ways to join the session: through the web navigator or through the dedicated app. Prefer the app if you want to be able to interact with the presenters. Now, for all of you who have joined this live, throw your questions at any time. We'll try to answer them during the session when we can, or we'll keep them for the Q&A session at the end. As a quick reminder, if you are not familiar with Octave yet, please check out the videos of the previous sessions on CR YouTube channel, as well as our Octave tutorial playlist. With that, let's get started for today. I'm Thibaut, and I have the pleasure to welcome two new faces from Octave development team to co-present today's session. First, please welcome Matt Morton. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Thibaut.
Matt is a principal engineer, system architecture on Octave, working on the backend part of Octave, as well as Octave APIs. Please prepare your best questions for Matt today. I'm sure you will have plenty of questions, either on the topic of the day or any other questions for Matt are welcome at the Q&A session part at the end. All right, our second presenter who will handle the live demos today is Nicolas Velay. Hi, Nicolas.
Hello, Thibaut. Hello, everyone.
Nicolas is software engineer, front-end development at Octave. All right. So, Matt, what are the topics for today?
Thanks, Thibaut. So we're really excited to share details of this upcoming end of September release with you. It contains 3 new, pretty big new features. The first is our cloud-to-device file transfer feature. This allows you to distribute large binary payloads to your entire fleet of devices just as easily as you would send configuration. Next is a global operations view. We've heard your feedback with regard to poor visibility of long-running operations, and we know how much more important this visibility will be when we start pushing files over LPWA. To address that issue, we've added a whole bunch of new features and information to our operations API and made that information easy to explore and consume in the user interface. Speaking of API exploration, we've added open API documentation for all of our REST API endpoints. This will enable ad hoc generation of client code that takes advantage of all of the latest Octave features and improves readability over our current static HTML document site. Let's start with our biggest feature, the cloud-to-device file transfer. So from launch, Octave has enabled users to work with both simple scalar data types and also more complex structured types in a format that is familiar to millions of developers worldwide, and that format is JSON. Some of our users have asked us to go even further, to give them tools that work with larger payloads and even binary data, such as images or asset firmware. And so we believe that the file is the next natural step on the hierarchy of data abstraction and representation. Our new file transfer feature has been designed to work end-to-end. Users can take a file from their local machine and upload it to Octave Cloud using the UI or our API tools. Files are kept within a company's private storage, within their private namespace, and manipulated like any other Octave object. When you're ready, files can be sent over the cellular network to a fleet of devices. And once they're present on the device, the Octave resource protocol is utilized to deliver that file to your connected asset. For this session, we'll mostly be focusing on the experience of uploading files to the cloud and then sending them through cellular to an Octave device. Now, in a future session, we'll do a deeper dive on the process of transferring file content to your connected assets using ORP, as well as doing file management at the edge. So let's start on the cloud side. We've worked really hard to integrate files with the existing Octave data model and the metaphor that we use. So files are represented by standard Octave objects. So people should be pretty familiar with how to interact with them. We organize files in much the same way as a file system. This makes it pretty familiar to anyone who has used other cloud storage providers. Files are fully integrated into our existing powerful access rights management system. Users can be granted access to individual or multiple files using groups in the same way as streams and devices are permissioned. File transfers are similar to other operations on the platform, such as firmware updates or blueprint applications, so they can be tracked in the same way. Blueprints are the standard metaphor for configurations that are common to an entire fleet of devices. These files can be attached to a blueprint and deployed at the same time as that configuration. Moving on to how files behave on a device. Once again, we've built on top of the existing Octave metaphor rather than start from scratch or create a new one. Here we expose new device resources to represent the current state of files existing in storage on a device, to track any ongoing transfers from cloud to device, and to provide controls for file management from the device perspective, such as pausing, resuming, and deleting stored files. And of course, because they're resources, you can use the same observations, commands, and edge actions to read and write those values. And finally, let's just take a look at the brief look at the asset side. To initiate a transfer to your asset from the Octave device, we use the familiar Octave resource protocol. ORP has been extended to support start, suspend, resume, and delete commands on file handles. By registering a file handler on the new file resources that I was just discussing, the asset controller can be notified of any new files that are available and then can transfer those accordingly. The asset can then also control the transfer transfer progress of those files using suspend and resume and ingest in a way that is appropriate for the asset. Now, we'll be doing a deeper dive of this feature in an upcoming session, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, but stay tuned. Let's move on to our second big announcement.
So Matt, we already have a few questions, if you don't mind.
Sure, let's do it.
Is there any maximum file size?
Yes, so I believe the maximum file size currently set is 70 megabytes for a single file.
All right, and is there any limitation in characters you can use for file names?
I believe that there are some limitations for characters. I'm not sure if I could give you those off the top of my head. It's pretty flexible, but that will all be documented in our OpenAPI documentation, which I'm going to speak about a little bit later.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, great. And as Thibaut said, if there's any more questions on any of these topics, either interrupt me or we can leave them to the end to the Q&A session. Okay, so that's files. I'm going to move on to our second big announcement, which is the global operations view. Now, when you perform updates on an entire fleet of devices, it's really important to be able to track the progress and status of those updates. We've had the operations API available on production since 2020. And now that whole system is being expanded with new objects, new tracking information, and more importantly, it is being rendered in the Octave user interface. So it's going to be much more easier to track your fleet deployments. Operations give you a way to track all asynchronous device-related work across your fleet. Work such as provisioning new devices, updating configuration, applying blueprints to devices, installing firmware over the air, and now with this upcoming release, sending files to your devices. So we allow users to track progress and status at 3 levels of granularity. The first is the operation object, and that groups together work being done to devices across an entire fleet. You can think of that as a single rollout of new firmware, files, blueprints, or a large provision operation. One of our new objects is the step list, which groups together atomic operations that is being done as part of an operation on a single device. So you can imagine, as I said before, when you're applying a blueprint, that might involve sending configuration, sending files, and even doing a firmware over the air update for each device as applicable. So a step list will group those individual operations, or I should say individual pieces of work, into a single object that you can track. And then finally, the step object, which is a single discrete instruction against a single device. Each of these objects is fully accessible using API calls and then rendered beautifully in the new operations user interface, which you're going to see a little bit of in just a bit. So we built into operations everything that you need when working with a fleet. Most importantly is tracking and being confident in the success of your deployments. Specifically for file transfer, you can see the percentage completion of files sent across the network. So you can start to get an idea of how long deployments will take when it comes to files. Any large-scale deployment can contain individual failures, of course. We want to make it easier to see those failures, identify them, diagnose, and then do any kind of troubleshooting that you need. And then finally, it's really important to be able to keep an audit of everything that took place on the platform. What was done, by whom, and when. So that's our operations view.
Yeah, quick question from Jan. Jan, thanks for joining. Are there callbacks, or do we need to challenge the individual steps?
Callbacks, are there callbacks to be notified of operations? I'm guessing the question is. So yes. We obviously have synchronous APIs for retrieving the steps, but the operations have been built into our existing notification system. So when you go to a device page you may have noticed on the right-hand side of the screen, you're given notifications about the state of a device. And that will be any time the device powers on or any operation that is occurring against that device. And these notifications are simple events, so they can be consumed in the same way as any other event can from the platform. So this gives us a lot of flexibility regarding our existing tools. So if you need to know when a single operation has finished against a particular device, you can register a cloud action that consumes against that inbox notification, and then you've got the full power of JavaScript to do whatever you need to do, whether that be write an event somewhere else or call a webhook. So it's really flexible. And we also have a similar stream for tracking operations as a whole. So rather than against individual devices, you can see the state of the entire grouped piece of work.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that answers Jan's questions. David is asking, is the new operations API backwards compatible with the previous one?
Yes, so we're very careful to make sure that all of our APIs are backwards compatible. We have a major release, which is still version 5.0. Anything that you see on version 5 is, until we increment it to version 6, it is always backwards compatible. So none of these changes will ever break your existing work.
All right, thanks.
Okay, great. So let's move on to our third topic. We have a brand new refresh of our Octave API documentation. We got a lot of feedback from users about our existing API documentation. You've told us that it lacks full coverage. Not all the REST API endpoints are documented. Some of the information is outdated or not even correct. Input and output types, which are very important to understand what the validation is when creating your client or your tools. Not enough detail on those formats, not enough examples of what we expect in the request and what you should expect in the response. And that makes it quite difficult to get started with the platform. And because it's a static HTML page, this cannot be imported to any existing tooling. So it's not always that useful. So we went back to the beginning and created brand new documentation from scratch using the industry standard OpenAPI 3 format. Endpoints are meticulously documented down to the input and output type validations. Full examples of the input and the return format are rendered. And because it's standard OpenAPI document, which is either JSON or YAML, that document can be imported into your favorite API client, such as Postman or Insomnia. And it can also be used to generate client code in a range of programming languages. So that should be much easier to develop clients for our API. And here's a sneak preview of how some of that looks. The rendering is really detailed and it's really great to look at. Any questions on the OpenAPI format?
I don't see more questions so far.
Okay. Well, these three very big features are going to be available in the next couple of weeks. We're targeting the end of September. But that's probably enough of me talking. I want to hand this over to Nicholas now, who's going to show you how some of this works.
Thanks, Matt. Hello again, everyone. I'm actually excited to show you these new features that we can't wait for you to try. We've worked hard to make file transfer smooth and as smooth as possible, and making operations show you the detailed progress of what you are doing through the UI. These new features are in preview right now and will soon be available for everyone. So I will now walk you through the process of uploading new files to devices. So we have this new file resource that Matt talked about, and well, it enables us to know what files are on our devices. And as we can see for now, on my device, I have no files yet. And this is this resource that you will want to use through the services, through ORP, to trigger assets on your devices. So I will now add files to these devices and another one actually. So I am now on this new file page, which is a classic file management software. So you have these folders, they are hierarchized, and themselves can contain all the folders and files, obviously. And well, anything that you would expect from your management from your file management software. And we have different keys on this file. So the name of the file, the current name, the version, which is the last version, the type, the size of the file, which, as Matt said, is limited to 70 megabytes, the upload date, and an optional description. There is no restriction on file names. You can name them however you want. There is restriction though on folder name, which are the paths of the files, and they follow the same convention as the streams path. Also,
Nicolas?
if you upload, yes.
Nicolas, is your screen changing? Because there is no change for us at the moment. If you are showing something, no, okay, you are not.
No, I'm still on the file page. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, thanks.
So yeah, if you are uploading a new file with the same name and the same path as another already existing file, you will just upgrade this file to a new version. So I will now create a new folder where I will put my 3 new files. So in this case, I will put it in a new folder named 2022. I hope you can see my screen changing now.
No. You are still on the resources page.
Oh.
Since the beginning, okay. You are on the resources page.
Okay. Do you see do you see the file page now?
Now,
yes.
Now we see it.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, like I was saying, I am now on a new file screen, which is what you would expect from your management software, your file management software. And we have these various keys that I just talked about, but you weren't able to see them. So the name, the version, the type, the size, and the upload date, and an optional description. Like I said, if you upload a new file with the same name and the same path as already existing file, we just upgrade it to a new version, and it will be shown here. So I will add a new folder. I will call it 2022 for this example. I can see that it is a new one, and I will select it to upload 3 new files. So these are files that are currently on my computer, and they are shown in yellow, which means that they are pending upload. And well, if I'm finished with that, I can just hit the upload button. But for the demo, I will add an optional description. For this example, this one. And these files are still pending upload. Also, I have only a few files on this demo company. But if you have many files, with the hierarchization, you may not be able to see all the new files that are pending upload. So I click this new filter, and you will only see the new ones that you are going to upload. So I'm finished with that. So I hit the upload button, and we have this new bottom bar, which is showing the progress, the actual progress of the uploading the files the free files to the Octave cloud. And what is important to note is that it's non-blocking, meaning that I can go to any other screen for any other screen of the Octave application, and the bottom bar will stay and will notify me when the upload is done. And I can also, if I wanted to, cancel the upload before it finishes. So here I can see that the bottom bar turned green, which means that, well, my files have been uploaded, and actually I didn't change screen, so you were able to see them live. And yeah, they appeared under the 2022 folders, just like I created them. So now that I have these 3 new files, I have yet to send them to my devices. So in order to do that, I will go to the devices page. And again, for this demo, I only have 34 devices on the page, but we can imagine that customers may have thousands of devices. So instead of selecting each of the devices one by one, scrolling through this page, I will actually use filters to select the devices that I want to send the files to. So I pre-created a tag in order to do that. So I can just filter the list through a tag. So this is not the tag I created actually. This is the good one. And as you can see, I only have my 2 devices. In my case, it will show only, well, it will show only the devices that are concerned by this filter. In my case, it's only 2 devices, but it can be many more. And if I select this main checkbox, it will select all the devices matching this filter, whether you see them in the list, if there are just a few, or if there are 1,000, all of them. So here I have selected the 2 devices. It's important to note the filter, which you will see again later. And now I will click on this new action button, and I will select the action of sending files. And I fall back to the previous file page that we saw earlier. So obviously I will select the 3 files that I just created to send them to the 2 devices I just selected. So I could select them one by one, but I will select the folder, which select all the files within it, as you would expect from any file management software. And well, here you are a summary of the data usage, and you can add a description of the operation if you want to be able to easily recognize it. So for example, this description. It is important to note that through the UI, you will be able to send only the last version of a file by selecting it. And if you want to send a previous version, you can do it through the API. So I will now hit the send button, and I have a summary again of what I am doing. So I am actually sending 3 files to 2 devices. So the 3 selected files, which are the one I just created, and they will be sent to my 2 devices, which I selected thanks to the filter. And I have again a summary of the data usage. So now I can click the confirm button, and I am immediately redirected to the operation that we just created. So as Matt said earlier, we can see now the whole operation, which is at the fleet level, and each of the operation contain step list, which here we name devices, and this operation contains 2 step lists, the 2 devices I send the files to, which we will deep dive later on. And we have these keys, so the progress. So as we can see, they are still ongoing. The operation is still ongoing on the 2 devices. The duration, the creation date, and the start date, which are not the same, which can not, in my case, are the same, but can be not the same. If, for example, your devices are not communicating, the starting of the operation will be postponed for later, the end date, the author, and the details. In my case, it's a send file operation. So if I click on the details, I have the three files, but I can have, if it is a firmware operation or a blueprint operation, I will have this detail here. And we find again the device filter that we use to create this operation. This is one of the useful key to distinguish operation between themselves, because if we just listed the number of devices, in the case it's only 2, so it's easy. But if you have thousands of devices, you will not be able to recognize operation between themselves just by looking at the list of thousands of devices. You will have to know how you selected the devices. This is one of the key that enables us to recognize operations. The description is the more easy one, but if you forget to add a description, you will have to use the device filters and the details and the date and so on. And we didn't want to show a meaningless ID. So I will have to go. I will now go to the step list. We can see that the screen is updated live. So it seems that I have 3 steps in this step list. And one of them is finished. So, well, I will actually have a look at this device. And okay, so I can see that I have 2 finished steps. And each steps concern, in my case, 1 file. And well, the third one should be started soon. And this is here where you will see the errors if you want to monitor what is happening on your device. In my case, I have no errors, but I will go back to one of the previous operation where I have some errors. So I have one here. I can use this filter to filter all the operations. So I can show the one that are in error, and I can only show the firmware, the files, and the blueprint operation. So for this example, I will use this operation. I can see that it seems that just 1/3 of it succeeded. So well, it's a firmware operation, and now I can see that since I am in the device context, I am redirected to the step list of this operation concerning the device I'm on, so Mongo demo 2, and I can see that that I have one of the steps that succeeded and the 2 others failed, and I can know why. For this one, it's an operation timeout, and well, I can see that it tried to install the firmware for 7 days, which probably means that my device wasn't communicating at this time. And well, since the install application failed, the push configuration failed too. Well, since there is nothing to push. So well, there is a failure in the previous step. Also, we have this new file detail page. So for example, for the one of the new files that I just created, for example, this one. So we have this file page where you have all the keys of the file, so the path which can be changed, which is the same thing as moving it around. The version, which is the size, the date and author, the description that I previously set, and also you have a list of all the operation that concern this particular file. In my case, only one, since I just created this new file, so I only see the operation I just created. So let's see if the operation is finished or not. So I'm still filtering by error.
I have a questions. I have a few questions if you want. Are files and their contents available from tasks or cloud actions, whether they are plain text or binary? And will they, if so, will they be a new type in the JavaScript environment, or just an object, or how it works?
Well, you can use them as any other resources, but you cannot download actually the file you cannot download the content, the binary of the files yet, but you can use them. Through any operation, any actions. Since it is a resource of its own.
I think maybe the question was, could the binary data be read into the JavaScript context within Cloud Action or Task? Not at this time.
No,
at this time we don't expose the file contents to the JavaScript environment at this time.
Yeah, it's not possible to use the binary content of the file.
Okay, is that something you are expecting to add in the future, or not on the roadmap for now? Matt, maybe?
If you shout loud enough about it, then we'll get it done. That's how things work, right?
Yeah. I don't know about editing the content of a binary file. I know that uploading a file through the file page should be available at one point.
All right.
So, well, it seems that the operation is still ongoing, not finished. So
I have another question if you want. Is there a way to trigger a file upload in a Cloud Action?
To trigger a file upload?
Yes, in a Cloud Action.
Yeah, actually, you can just send a command in order to do it. Yeah. Normally, if you send a command through the collection to the stream to the device, you will be able to download a command. Actually, what Matt showed earlier is this resource AutoStart, and if this is set to true, it will automatically upload any file that you send to the device. If it sends to false, you will have to use an actual command to trigger the download of the files.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe we should be clear on the terminology here, because I sometimes get a little confused between uploads and downloads, relative to whichever device or cloud. So when we talk about file upload, talking about from a user's machine to Octave cloud, Octave platform, that's something that can't be triggered within a Cloud Action. You have to use our APIs to do that yourself. And then maybe we would use the terminology to send a file, or perhaps download to the device. That's something that can be controlled using commands, as Nicholas just said.
Yeah, this is the terminology. Yeah, I was talking about sending a file. So a file that is already on the Octave cloud that you will send to one of your devices.
Yep.
And this can be triggered by a command.
That's maybe good to say to everyone here on the. I mean, if you have any suggestion or anything you think we should change in terms of terminology, if you think it's not obvious or we should use another term or whatever, please reach out to the team. You can suggest things. You can say, okay, this particular feature is not obvious, or this screen is not obvious, or whatever. We always welcome this kind of thing. It's a way for us to get better and better, thanks to your feedback. So thank you guys.
Yeah, like I said, the feature is still on preview, and we are open on feedback still.
And even after, I mean, as we roll out features and enhanced features all the time on the go. So yeah.
Okay, so now I will go to the stream of the device. This one. I will actually change my device to the other one. And so we have this inbox stream, which got the event for the file start and complete. And for example, here I can see that one of my files was successfully sent to the device, and I can actually use this event to trigger any assets through ORP, and send when I know that the send file is completed on the device side. I can use an action, for example, to trigger the assets.
This is what we related to the question a little bit earlier about callbacks. We want to expose JavaScript functionality to everyone as much as we can, because we think it's actually more powerful than some traditional callback mechanisms. So again, this stream here, plain events, plain data, and attach your cloud action, and then you've got all that power for at your fingertips.
Yeah. So, I can already go to the resource page, and we have these new resources. So I can look at the download resource. I can see that the last one, thermo.conf, was successful, and it seems that I still have one file pending upload. But I have already, at the beginning, I showed you that I had no files. I have two of them. The third one is probably still uploading. And you can do whatever you want with this resource and send them to the assets, which will be shown to you on the next developer session next month.
Thanks. I have another question for you. Can you do a HTTP GET to a REST source and save to files?
Save to files?
So for our September release, there's no, I think what you're saying is, can you pull files back from Octave to your local machine? So the kind of a cloud to local machine download. That's not in that's not in the next release, but that's something that we've got on our roadmap.
Yeah, it's planned, like I said earlier, uploading a file from the cloud to your computer. You cannot do it yet, but this is planned.
And Jan is asking, and about the reverse, so doing the contrary.
From a device to your machine?
To the cloud, yes.
From a device to the cloud, yeah, this is planned too. It will be on future release, but for now, the source of the file is only the Octave cloud. But we are already working to be able to have devices as a source. So, for example, if your device got an embarked camera, you may be able to take photo with it, and after upload this file from the device to the cloud, and they will be device originated file.
And it will be the same objects and metaphors, so you will receive a file object and it will behave in the same way as what we have here. So you can see this as laying the groundwork for the future device to cloud work.
And from so now between a cloud like AWS, so can we use a cloud action to retrieve a file on AWS or any other cloud and save it in files?
You can't save it into a file at this time. It would be you could save to a regular event if the content was smaller, but there's no in JavaScript functions for manipulating or creating new files.
Okay. Thanks. And I have another question. Jan is saying thanks. David is asking, can destination folders be specified when sending files to a device?
Yeah. If you go to the file page, for example, through the UI, you can, for example, I have 2022, but if I select 2021, I can add files directly within it. So in my case, I select these three files. We can see that in 2021, I already have these files. So in this case, it will just upgrade them.
On the device, on the device.
On the device.
There's no folder structure on the device. The device has a flat structure for files. We don't imagine that people will be using quite as many files or even file management tools on the device as they have in the cloud.
All right, makes sense. All right, thanks.
Yeah, is there any new question?
No, no more questions so far.
Okay.
That's the end of your demo, Nicholas?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought we started the actual Q&A session.
No, not yet. Okay. So, all right. I don't see any more questions coming. So, I guess we will get back to the presentation now. All right. So, if you guys have any question either related to the topics of the day, so as you saw, a lot of new features here, or any other question you would have for our Octave team, it's time now to ask your questions. All right, so one question here: when will we be able to see current values in resources without going into dev mode? Matt, do you have an answer for that?
Oh, good question. That's a great question. Okay, so all right, let's just expand on that a little bit, right? So dev mode forces a device to cloud push of the current value of all resources as they are refreshed on the device. And we do also refresh the value if there is a device to cloud push of some kind, like an observation, on that resource. So that will also be updated more frequently. But what I think I'm hearing is, when will there be sort of more like a manual, I want to see the latest value of this resource without having, you know, almost like a refresh button? That's something we've considered for quite some time. And I think it's definitely rolling around our heads about how we're going to do that correctly. But I appreciate the feedback. And I think the more people that want it, the higher the priority is going to be.
We have to note that through the UI, you can already trigger the developer mode through the device status at the top bar, and this is currently undergoing changes to make it even better for you.
All right. Yes, Jan says maybe limited to a number of times. Yeah. So that's a pretty good feedback. Thank you, Jan, for this great feedback. If you guys have such feedback, feel free to. That's now a good time to send them to us, or you can use as well the forum. I'm sure you know the forum. The URL is on the screen right now. If you have any more questions or any feedback to send us, don't forget to tag the Octave category when you do so. From time to time, I see Octave questions not properly tagged with Octave category on the forum. So then it takes more time for the team to actually figure out this is an Octave related question. So yeah, and Nicola and Matt, like all other developers on Octave, are on the forum, and they answer on the forum, so you can contact them all in private or in within topics. So feel free to go to the forum. This is the place where you can interact with the team. All right. Thanks to all. Great as always. Thank you, Jan, for these comments. If you are not registered, once again, if you are watching this on YouTube, you can register for the session live. You'll find the link in the description below. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. We do our best to announce the sessions and to publish Octave related news on Twitter as well. And of course, you have to subscribe to CR Wireless YouTube channel if not already. I think that's all for today. Thanks, Matt. Thank you very much. Thanks, Nicolas. And thank you all. A lot of people today. That's great to see you all. And we have to say see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.